Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Cal. Got a few interesting things to cover today. Obviously the Fed decision came out yesterday to pause or skip the rate hikes, and then we got the European Central Bank hiking rates. Crypto trading volumes, BlackRock potentially getting their Bitcoin ETF, and then some news on Curve. So let's jump right into it. So Bitcoin today, obviously it's down a little bit since the news broke from the Fed that they were basically skipping rate hikes. So I think most people were pretty convinced that they weren't going to hike rates at this meeting. The thing that I think caught people off guard was the fact that they, more of what they were saying, and this dot plot that they do, basically where different members of the Fed talk about what they expect rates to be. So it seems like most of them expect rates to be higher. So I think the general expectation now is that we're going to see 2 more rate hikes before the end of the year. At least that's what the market thinks. Clearly, the market didn't like it that much. In my opinion, I'm relatively convinced that they're not going to hike rates anymore. One thing they were saying is that they want to see more data come in before they make any final decisions. But when you kind of look at, historical rates, we are obviously at this kind of major moment here at 5 to 5.25% for the Fed funds rate. So I don't know. Personally, I don't see them going much beyond this, if at all. And I think, the second we get news that they're thinking about reversing this, we're going to see asset prices moon. So obviously not financial advice of any kind, but in my opinion, and the way that I'm playing this in my portfolio is I'm starting to get pretty bullish here. And I kind of have been for a little while now, kind of making my play on, the Fed reversing course. And a big way that I'm playing that is obviously in crypto with Bitcoin, but also in stocks. So, I'm just kind of expecting that this reversal is going to come at some point in the next year. And, a lot of people want it to be next month. They want it to be, 2 months from now. But in my opinion, if it happens anytime in the next, 12 months, which I think is pretty much a guarantee, just in my opinion, we're going to see asset prices moon. So that's how I'm playing this. I'm starting to get pretty long in my portfolio again. So the European Central Bank obviously didn't follow the same pattern as the Fed. So I believe this is their eighth consecutive hike. The Fed had 10 consecutive hikes, and then this is obviously their break of that pattern. So the ECB has done 8 now. They just raised 0.25%, and they seem to be pretty convinced that they're going to keep raising rates. So Christine Lagarde said we're not thinking about pausing. So it seems like they're going to keep going. And I don't know that has much of a relevance to what the Fed actually does. But like I said, I feel like these central banks are going to start reversing course, but things in Europe are a lot different than things in the US. So I guess we'll see what happens. So crypto trading volumes is something that I've kind of gotten a little more interested in lately, especially related to, where they're happening in the world. I've talked a few times about how less than 15% of total crypto trading volume actually happens in the US now, which I think is pretty important considering, all the regulation stuff that's happening here. When you look at overall crypto trading volume patterns, it seems like we're at some pretty drastic lows. So this is saying that the average daily volumes for the second quarter of 2023 were $10 billion for the top 10 tokens, not including the stable coins, compared to $18 billion in average daily trading volume last quarter. So definitely a big pullback in terms of trading volume, but consider that, in quarter one, we had a lot more price volatility. I think in the second quarter, we've been relatively stable and moving sideways. So, personally, I would think that has a pretty big impact. One thing that this CoinDesk article talks about is the share of different tokens and their trading volumes. So, it talks about how Bitcoin has been losing a little bit of dominance in this area, and some of the altcoins have actually increased in terms of their percent share of the trading volume. This can be related to a lot of things. I think altcoins have been a lot more volatile than Bitcoin. So again, I'm going to place this on volatility. I don't really think it's, I don't really see any real patterns other than price volatility there. We've been hearing about Bitcoin ETFs for as long as Bitcoin's existed. There's been a ton of different companies and people that have tried to file for Bitcoin ETFs and get them approved by the SEC, but obviously none of them have gone through. There are some Bitcoin futures that have been approved, and Bitcoin went up a lot back in the day when those did get released. But a Bitcoin ETF where it's actually settled in Bitcoin would be a really big deal. Something that this industry has been trying to achieve for a really long time. BlackRock, obviously being the behemoth of behemoths in terms of investment funds, going after a Bitcoin ETF is not surprising. And if they were to get it approved, which I don't think is super likely that they are, I think that would be a really great thing for the industry overall. Obviously, BlackRock is a lot harder to ignore than something like a Coinbase or any other smaller company. But I don't know. I'm hopeful that they do it, but I don't, especially in light of what's happening with the SEC lately. I just don't see this getting approved, but you never know. And then last piece of news, something a little different than general market news. So Curve, if you don't know, is a DeFi token, and basically it's paid out to people who provide liquidity. Curve has always been known for stablecoin liquidity primarily. It's also used as collateral in different lending protocols on the Ethereum network. So apparently the Curve founder borrowed $110 million worth of stable coins against his Curve, and he owns 50% of the circulating supply of Curve. So apparently that's at risk of liquidation if the price drops another 35%, which would be a pretty significant drop. I mean, it's at 60 cents right now, and it's actually up 4% today. But that would be a pretty significant drop for Curve, and Curve tends to be one of the more stable-ish DeFi tokens that's available out there. But yeah, I mean, this doesn't look great for Curve. And I saw something here that the founder also removed some of his Curve from Aave v3, which prevents people from borrowing it to short Curve and try to do a squeeze. So just kind of an interesting little story, some deep crypto stuff for you if you're not really into the DeFi stuff. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.